Okay, let's make a start. Thank you so much for the introduction. And hello to everyone who is here in person in the here and now. And also hello to the people that might be joining us later in the recording. Yeah, I'm really excited to do a session on place because, as you've heard, place is absolutely at the center of everything I write and everything I make. I'm sitting in my new study here in Shetland at the moment, and just to give you a sense of my place, I've got a big landscape window in front of me, and out of it I can see a bit of a field. Well, I can't see it really very well because the dusk's falling, but I can see a field with some brown sheep in it, Shetland sheep, and then I can see the sea and the cliffs beyond. And then it's the open sea all the way, just over 200 miles till you hit mainland Scotland. So this is the most amazing and fascinating place to live and to try and share with you a little bit. Um, and and I love home. I love where I live. And I've been writing a lot recently about what it means to love a place like you love a person. Um, and I wonder if anyone who's in the workshop has also had that experience of falling in love with a place or feeling that a place is so important to them that it almost feels part of their spirit. So we're going to speak about the spirit of place. We're going to do 3 different exercises today, which I hope will give you 3 different ways into thinking about places. We're going to think about the spirit of place. We're going to imagine places. And we're going to try and conjure places as well. So 3 writing exercises, which I will talk you into, and you'll be well used to writing on the spot after your experience with this project. So I think you'll be ready to go. I just wanted to say as well that for those of you that haven't been to StAnza and to St Andrews, StAnza makes St Andrews the most iconic place of poetry when it's on every springtime. So I hope you'll get to experience that if you haven't. And one way of doing that is to submit your poems at the end of this project. So please do that. Okay, well, we'll start with a bit of a warm up, but I'm going to read a poem to introduce that. And unusually for me, I'm going to read one of my poems. I would usually give you lots of examples from different poets, but I want you to try something really specific today. And the easiest way is to show you how I tried it. So I'm going to read the first poem from my book, Nigh-No-Place. And it's just a list. It's just a list of place names. And some of them are real places and some of them are made up. And I'm not going to tell you which are which. You can guess for yourselves. Nigh-No-Place. I will meet you at Pity Me Wood. I will meet you at Up to No Good. I will meet you at Stank, Shank and Sty. I will meet you at Blowfly. I will meet you at Low Spying How. I will meet you at Salt Pie. I will meet you at Copper Top. I will meet you at Scandal Bottom. I will meet you at Crackpot Moor. I will meet you at Muker. I will meet you at Dirty Peace. I will meet you at Booze, Alberta. I will meet you at Bloody Vale. I will meet you at Hunger Hill. I will bring you to new invention. I will bring you to Lucky 7. I will bring you from Shivery Man. I will bring you to the Lion and Lamb. I will bring you to the North Light. I will bring you to quiet the night. I will bring you to hush. I will bring you to hungry hushes. I will bring you to Grace, Alberta. I will bring you to Nigh-No-Place. I will meet you at 2 o'clock Creek. Will you go with me? So your warm up folks, and I'm going to ask you to use the chat in a minute, but not just yet. I'm going to give you 5 minutes and I want you to make up as many place names as you can think of. So you can imagine landscapes around where you live and give them names, things significant to you maybe, places where important things happen to you or where you've picked up a funny kind of feeling. Or you can imagine a whole landscape and name it. But get as many down as you can in the 5 minutes and then we'll share them in the chat. So I will get you back at, how do you add this up? 1:15. I'll get you back at 1:15 and I'll just turn off my sound for now. All right, folks, I'm just going to give you 1 more minute to get your last few place names down and get ready to enter things on the chat. Okay, folks, so we'll get ready to sling some place names around. I see that, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Ide Crawford? Welcome. Don't worry that you've had a bit of trouble getting in. We'll catch you up. So basically what we've been doing is imagining place names, either for landscapes we know around us, but being quite personal about it, places that are important to you, or imagining a landscape and giving it names. But this is just a bit of a warm-up, and we're going to do this as a group. So I'm going to start to ask people to start entering some of their favorite place names in the chat now. Cherry Tree Junction, I love it. I can see that. Oh, I love it, Atlas. That's great. Drip Drop Well. Kissing Tree Gate. Harmony Bridge. Hoopla, I'm going to add. I think that could be a place. Three Fall Oaks. Toffee Cups. Nice. I'm starting to see a whole map, folks, spreading around me. Elysium Close. Settingdom. Settingdom's really curious, Atlas. That sounds like a place the sun goes down. Black Sand Beach. Yeah, I'm seeing something like Iceland with that. Kindle Bray. Lovely sound in that. Go Nimble. Oh, that's beautiful. Horizon Hill. Ocean Alley. Yeah, that's a seaside town, right? And then Kirksinkind. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's really cool because it makes me feel like there's another language at play. Totsing Drift. Lovely. Swimming Place. Brymelion or Bremelion. That sounds like something either out of Lord of the Rings or The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, possibly. Hope Sands, I like that. Lemon Tuft. The Magpie's March, good birdie place. Life Intersection. Oh, there's a lot riding on that. You would cross that road with care, I think. The Riverbrook. Jungle Hill. Oh, yeah. Slightly different landscape than the one we're familiar with, I think. Cupboardville really reminds me of Narnia in a big way. That's great. Or maybe it's a town where everyone knows everyone else's business. I'm not sure. The Stag Lamp. Lovely. That's like a landmark, I think, a place where people might meet. In Shetland, it's the Market Cross on Commercial Street where everyone gets together. Or all the folk who are younger than me, they get together at the Market Cross anyway. The Stag Lamp. Yeah, it's lovely. It could be the lamp where you see the stag, or stag lamp could be something in another language. Finn Heights. Yeah, you quite often see heights in place names, don't you? Hard to climb green gates. Sounds like the way into some kind of heaven or Eden. Ophelia's Hollow. Yeah, beautifully mythic. Wolfpad Patch. Said that wrong. Wolfpad Path. The Moth's Flower. Oh, that's beautiful. Going to add Toodaloo. That could be a place. Deerling Field. Reef Farewell. You've all got a really good instinct for sound, folks. There's music in these. Quarlow. Oh, that sounds like somewhere in Orkney or Shetland. There's lots of Q's up here in place names. We have Quarf and there's Coilu in Orkney. And remember that sometimes place names, it's very hard to remember almost where they came from. You know, sometimes place names are so old and the place has changed so much that they feel really different to what's there now. Five Quine View. That's lovely. Bramble Alley. We've had some hills and we've had some forests and we've had some fields and paths, but have we had any mountains? Kristen Kites, that's interesting. I can't not think about Christmas with that one. Or a place where people are christened, maybe. I love Lightning Rise Atlas. That's properly mythic. I feel like you wouldn't go there in a storm. Rosehip Bay. I love Mount Velveteen. That is beautiful. I can see that. There's a mountain in Canada that I know that I might rename Mount Velveteen because it looks like velvet. The Cold Crags. Yes. Can you imagine what would happen in this place? The adventures and the quests and the mysteries and all the stories. Red Rib Hollow. I'm seeing that as a place with sand and clay, maybe the bones jutting out through the clay. Bramleythorn Mont. Blue Sky Close. That's nice, Catherine. I'm going to put one that's quite prosaic. Wind Tunnel. But it could be a natural formation, I think. The wind howls through. I think it's always windy in Wind Tunnel.
Hello, Jen. I don't think your chat is getting to everyone at the moment.
I've changed it.
Oh, you
I've
have.
just
That's
changed
fine.
it.
That's great.
I love Marrow Peak, Dumfries Academy. That's lovely. Wonderful. Okay, folks, so you can see how place names can have poetry in and of themselves. And sometimes it just takes one or two words like that to spark a whole world of story and landscape in your mind. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind as we work through the afternoon. Oh, Gorsmere, that sounds like somewhere near where I come from, actually. The word mere is used quite often in Cheshire for either a field or a bog or something like that. I'm going to read you another poem, and this one is quite famous. You may have heard it before. And I rediscovered it recently and remembered how much I love it. It's short, and it's very lyrical, and it's called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. It's by the American poet Robert Frost, and it's quite an old poem now. I'm going to put the title in the chat for you. Okay. It should be Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and it's by Robert Frost. So I'll just read you that. And I'm going to do a screen share so you can see it as well. And I want you to think, don't even think, just feel as I read it. Any kind of physical reactions you get to the poem, how does it make you feel? Don't worry about what it means or how it's constructed at this stage. Just let yourself enter that place as I speak it. Sorry folks, I'm a wee bit slow finding this because it's disappeared off my screen. Here we go. Screen share is coming up. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind, downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So folks, because it's short, I'm going to read it a second time. And sometimes we take in different things on a second hearing or reading of a poem than the first time round. So I'm going to just run it by you one more time. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So I'm going to stop my screen share so I can keep an eye on the chat. And I would just love to hear from you. How does it make you feel? Just focus on emotions and physical feelings. That's nice, Atlas. Oddly warm and melancholic. Yeah, it does feel sort of sad and interesting that you say oddly warm. I wish we could speak face to face about what you mean by that. But I know what you mean, I think. And Sally says it feels like doing something you're not supposed to do, but loving it. So I feel that too, Sally. I feel like it's a stolen moment. And Dumfries Academy says that they felt the isolation. Kathleen, that it's nostalgic. So it's a longing for a gone time, a past time nostalgia. And it's so often tangled up with place, isn't it? Nostalgia. We are nostalgic for places so often. It feels like snatching a moment from time. I think that's the strongest feeling I get from this poem, that we're all so busy, aren't we? We're all dashing around like crazy, and our attention is caught up every second of every day with people and classes and work, and family and friends and television and Netflix, things we have to get done. And it's very hard just to be in a place sometimes and just notice where we are. And I like that you're saying out there that it feels like snatching a moment from the owner of the woods. Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's that weird line at the start. You know, the grammar's a bit funny at the start. Whose woods these are, I think I know. So it's kind of turned around in an unexpected order. Um, I'm really interested in that because in Shetland, as in the rest of Scotland, we have the right to roam. So we can go anywhere. I can go onto the cliffs. I can walk through someone's park if I'm in their field, if I'm sort of respectful of what they're doing there with their sheep or their crops. You can climb over fences carefully. There's nowhere there's very few places I can't go in Shetland. And it's the same is true throughout Scotland. So we're really lucky to have that because south of the border in England, there's a lot of places you're not allowed to go. There's lots of private lands, private signs. And in Canada, where I spent a lot of time, there's a lot of wide open spaces, but there's still a lot of places you can't go. So to come back to your point, to snatch a moment from the owner of the woods, I think that's really interesting. And you're saying the owner is presumably too busy to enjoy them. And so it feels right to snatch that moment as from hurrying time. That's a great observation. That's really lovely. So I think I want to ask you all while we're here in this set of ideas, do you think we can own places? Can you think of a place as all yours? Let's say you're a millionaire and you've bought 100 acres of land. Can you own them, do you think? There's a couple of no's popping up. All answers are valid, by the way, folks. So what's our relationship with these places then? If we spend private property isn't real, says Reese. Yeah, it's a notion, isn't it? Just as money is a notion. We buy land with money, but money's kind of invented. Atlas says, I think you can connect to a place deeper than a different person. I'd love to know why you think that is, Atlas. Could you give me a bit more detail there? Sally says beautifully that places are shared. Or custodians and owners. I love that idea that we're here to look after our places. It's so interesting when I got my house site here, my little bit of land, and the transaction went through the lawyers and I handed over the money. I felt a quiet, safe place, just between my ribs here. I'd never felt that quiet and safe before. And in the same moment, I thought, but it's not mine. You know, there's all these names of the wee parcels of fields around me, and they're ancient names, and I only know a few of them. So how can it be mine if I don't know the names? Reese, it's wonderful that you've quoted John Steinbeck. I love John Steinbeck. I'm going to read this out. But let a man get property he doesn't see, or can't take time to get his fingers in, or can't be there to walk on it, why then the property is the man. He can't do what he wants. He can't think what he wants. The property is the man, stronger than he is. And he is small, not big. Only his possessions are big. and he's the servant of his property, that is so too. That's fascinating, Reese. So the more we own, the smaller we become. That's amazing. I think there's a truth in that. You know, we can get so perturbed by our possessions that we lose our sense of self. I find it very difficult to feel as if I own a place or even fully belong there, in spite of the intense emotion connection I often have. That's really moving, that idea. So many people find it hard to feel like they belong. And belonging comes from so many different things, doesn't it? Not everyone will have the same relationship with a place, says Atlas. Just because it belongs to someone else doesn't mean they care for it in the same way. And B says places have no real sentiment. It's what you make of it in your mind, what you want it to be. So place is really subjective. And we can feel like the same place as a different place, depending on how we feel when we go there. If we go there 10 years down the line. I had a very strange experience a few years ago. My granny in Canada, I'd visited her at her home for 30 years and more. And she bought her house and she was really proud of it. It had a good view of the Fraser River. But the fact that she bought it and nobody told her which house to buy was a big deal for her, because everything had been controlled by the men in her life up to that point. And when she finally moved out of that house at the age of 109, the people that bought the house knocked it down and built a big new house on the same site. And I don't want to go to her street anymore, because it's so strange to think that the house that was hers isn't there anymore. It's a very, very odd feeling. Kathleen says what we love about a place reflects our personality. That's really nice. I'd love to know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Can you just correct me in the chat? What do you prefer? Can you sort of spell it out? Ida. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'll get that right. So Ida says, I feel as if because my relations come from all over the place and I've never lived in one place for long enough to fully belong, I pour emotion into places I love, like a human relationship, almost in attempt to appropriate them. Yeah, I think that's really well observed, Ida. I think I've done the same thing too. And I think it's something that is a very human thing to do as well. So I think this is a really good moment to set you all some writing. There's loads of interesting ideas flying around here. I would like you to write something where you write either about a place that is a refuge for you, a precious place. Well, that's what I would like you to do. Let me reword that. I'd like you to write about a place that is precious to you, that might be a refuge, or it might be a place you've only been once. It might be a place that you go to all the time. And because we're writing inspired by Robert Frost, I want you to get as much atmosphere into that place and word as possible. So try and think about weather and time of year and emotion, and let that colour the language that you use. So is that prompt clear? Does anybody want any more tips before I set you off? I'm going to just give you 10 minutes, I think, for this one. Are we all good? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my sound on my video, but I'll keep an eye on the chat here. So if anyone has any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll answer you straight back. Okay, so I'm going to get you back at, here's me doing my sums again. Let's say at 10 to 5. That'll be perfect. Thanks, folks. Okay, folks, we're going to make another start. We're going to leave a bit of space at the end of the workshop where you'll hopefully share some of what you've been writing or thinking about. And please remember that in the workshop, we're not expecting polished, finished, perfect pieces. These are first drafts, and we know that you'll probably want to change bits and pieces, so don't feel self-conscious about sharing and stuff. I did want to give you one more prompt and exercise before we do that, though. So I've got a poem. I'm quite excited to find this poem, actually, because it's by Scotland's Makar, Scotland's national poet, Kathleen Jamie. And it's in the voice of the Clyde River after COP26, or COP27 now, aren't we? But just the idea of the Clyde River commenting on COP was such an interesting idea, I thought. So in this section, we're going to think about spirits of place. We're imagining the place itself speaking to us. So I'm going to share that poem with you. I'll do a screen share again and I'll read it to you. It's a great poem. And see if I can. This is the road. Is that the way to do that? Just pop it there. So this is what the Clyde said after COP26. I keep the heat. I'm cool. If asked, but you never ask, I'd answer in tongues, hinting of Linz and Leven, Ethan, Kelvin, Card, but neutral, balancing both banks equally as I flow. Do I judge? I mind the hammer swing, the welder's flash, the heavy steel-built hulls I bore downstream from my city. And maybe I was a blatherskite then, a wee bit full of myself, when we seemed gae near unstoppable. But how can I stomach any more of these storm rains? How can I slip quietly away to meet my lover, the wide-armed ocean, knowing I'm a poisoned challenge she must drain, drinking everything you chuck away? So these days, I'm a listener, aye. Think of me as a long, level, liquid ear gliding slowly by. I heard the world's words, the pleas of peoples born where my ships once sailed. I heard the beautiful promises, and sure, I'm a river, but I can take a side. From this day, I'd rather keep afloat, like wee folded paper boats, the hopes of the young folk chanting at my bank, fear in their spring bright eyes. So hear this, fail them, and I will rise. Such a great poem, love it. Okay, I'd just love to get any reactions to that poem from you that you feel like sharing. Sally says, I love how it says the ocean is its lover. It's a great image, that, isn't it? Kathleen got tearful. I loved that the ocean is the river's wide-armed lover. It's brilliant, isn't it? Because we think about the river flowing into the ocean and different shape of the river and the ocean. It is a great line. Yeah, it's wonderful. How do you feel about the ending? Yeah, I think it's provocative too, Atlas. So again, can you give us a bit more detail about that? What's the provocation? Yeah, good observation, Sandy. It has a double meaning. Rising literally due to climate change and rising in protest. I really loved as well the image of the full belly of the of the storm floods as well, the storm rains. And the way it sounds like a threat. Yeah. It's a brilliant poem. She's such a great macker. She's such a good pick for macker. And I think the timing of her being macker is so excellent as well, because she's such an outstanding nature poet, Kathleen Jamie. Although I think she balked at being actually called a nature poet in the past, but she writes so well about it. For me, that's the most important thing to write about. And our relationship with place is so complicated now, isn't it? Because we can love places and grieve them all at once. And we can praise them and celebrate them just the same. So your final task today is a spirit of place exercise. And I want you to go to a place that you either love or hate in your mind. I want you to have some kind of emotional relationship with it, but it doesn't have to be your favorite place. And you can ask that place any question you like. And then I'd like you to write what the place answers. Does that make sense as a prompt? I'll write it in the chat as well. So it's spirit of place. Go to a place in your mind, and you can love or hate it or have any other emotion, but as long as there's some kind of emotional connection. And ask that place any question you like. So visualize yourself actually walking or wading or whatever it is into that place, and ask your question, and then write the place's answer in its voice. So you're not writing in your voice now, but its voice. Okay, and again, I'm going to give you a little less long for this one. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, which will take us to, let's say, I'll give you a couple more. Let's say 5:10. We'll meet again. And again, if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat too. Good luck. Okay, folks, I hope you've had a productive few minutes there. And I'm looking forward to being transported in your poems. So this is our chance to see a bit of what you've been writing. I know you'll need a few minutes to start typing and pasting into the chat here, but yeah, if anyone wants to share anything, now's your chance. And I'm really happy, by the way, if you don't want to share your whole poem, or you've just got a line that you're really proud of, or you even just want to speak about the idea you're working on, that's all totally fine too. Oh, Ida, thanks. That looks great. I'm just going to take a moment to read this. That's so beautiful, Ida. I'd really like to read that out loud if you're okay with that. Oh, Ida, I hear that you can read aloud if you want to. I would really like to hear your voice. And then Reese, it'd be great to hear yours afterwards. I think I'm trying to find out how to speak as well, Edith. It's a good line.
Aha, can you hear me?
I can. It's lovely to hear your voice.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm always a bit shy about reading my own stuff.
It's good to practice.
So the question I asked was have you waited for me? Little one, you never asked me to. Time was, it did not make you cry to know. The sea takes things away with every tide. The loveliest, most intricate of shells, the tenderest, the pinkest, the moon bright. You never thought to ask how many times the cold, pale foam would rush to meet your feet and ebb away, a candle burning down. You never saw the way the Menai Bridge hung from the pendulums of many clocks and swung and strode across the narrow straits. The trackless sea is timed as well as land, and I can't count the tides that passed away, since laughing you passed on and left this shore. You never did yourself, so do not ask for me to hide the gleaming bladder-wrack that each new tide leaves lifeless on the shore. Where the winds are shut in a mermaid's purse, and the tide stops still on the long-ribbed sand, and you walk up and down on the acre of land between the salt water and the sea strand, then I will wait till you come back again.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is great. I love the music of that. It's so assured. It's really confident lyricism there, I would say. And I'm so glad to hear you read it, because I think you did it better than I would have done. How did it feel to say it out loud?
I always quite like reading my poetry out loud in terms of the sound patterns, because it's one of the things I really enjoy doing, the sound. So I like to hear it, but I always feel a bit shy about the emotional ones.
Yeah, because it is like bearing your soul a little bit, isn't it?
I get really emotional about places. They're probably the things I feel most personal about.
Yeah, I do too. I can really relate to that. And when you say things out loud, obviously you have to breathe, and there's something about breath that unlocks our emotions as well. So you're sort of doubly on the point of tears.
Presumably that's partly why how poetry controls emotion, in that you can kind of control how you breathe by the stresses and so on to some extent.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think that's absolutely true. So it can control emotion, but also it can help other people feel things, which is an amazing gift, I think. I want to really quickly ask you about the image of the Menai Bridge hanging from the pendulums of many clocks. What brought that image to your mind?
I guess it's just because it's a suspension bridge. So the cables reminded me of, it's a slightly weird image, but the cables always remind me of the cord that a pendulum hangs on. But I feel like it's a bit first draft, so I would probably make that a bit clearer. I should probably say something about the chords.
Yeah,
to make it slightly clearer what's going on there. But yeah, the metal cords that it's suspended on always, because they fall very straight, always kind of remind me of pendulums. But
yeah, okay, it's a really original image. I really like it. I think you're right. I think if you make it just really simply a wee bit clearer,
I shouldn't have said pendulums at all. That was technically incorrect, and what I meant was the chords of the pendulums.
Yeah, but then that would break your rhythm, wouldn't it?
It's annoying. It would.
It's great though. It's great. There's so much I love in there. I'm going to move on just so we can hear Reese's as well. Thank you for sharing it. Reese, would you like to read yours, or do you want me to read it? It's your choice.
Yeah, I'd like to read it. I managed to get it in the chat eventually.
Got
It's
it.
called Dialogue with St. Cuthbert's Graveyard. It'll take you everything you've got on you to make your way out of this labyrinth. You can pause to observe the castle or the pizza left out for the homeless, but you might as well just cut right through and jump down from a ledge if you find yourself at one. And your primary school RS teacher still works here. You think of sitting through his sermons, thinking nothing could be worse, but now you've seen that maybe you shouldn't have been studying your tweed socks so closely. You passed through me on chilly nights where you swore you wanted to freeze, wearing skinny jeans and a t-shirt, muttering, "Is this actually supposed to hurt this much, or am I just doing it completely wrong?" Um, Strayed right through me to catch the train as if you were scared of being stranded. What's the matter? Didn't you always say you wanted to live in the city, the room that receives delivery, wanted to be in striking distance of your dreams, break bread with nightmares? Well, maybe you forsaked me when you thought of your own slice, and you can claim it was invasive, but the problem's not how strange you are, the problem's that you're pretending. So maybe you should write out your own headstone to explain it. Here lies a liar afraid to spell things out, lived 2004 to now, and I suggest you keep the widest berth unless you want to never leave here, because you thought I was a shortcut, but oh, am I a long shot? And if you want it to be over, no, the only way out is through.
Oh, Reese, it's great. So this is where you have a conversation with St. Cuthbert's graveyard. Where is that graveyard, Reese?
It's next to Princess Street Gardens.
I know the one. It's on the kind of steep slope. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love the fact that you present it immediately as a labyrinth. I think that's a great image. It feels realistic, but also the idea that this is going to sound a bit dark, but that's where we're all going to end up in some form or other. I love the you, and I love the idea of passing through on chilly nights where you swore you wanted to freeze, wearing skinny jeans and t-shirt, muttering, "Is this actually supposed to hurt, or am I just doing it completely wrong?" I can sort of feel the speaker of I can feel the person in the poem haunting the graveyard. That's great. It's so impressive what you managed to write in a short space of time, Reese.
Thank you.
Great headstone as well. Here lies a liar, afraid to spell things out. Lived 2004 to now. So that's so interesting, because now is going to keep refreshing itself, isn't it? Oh, so good. So good. Quite a strong voice that graveyard's got, isn't it? I mean, quite often when we see poems about graveyards, there's a quieter tone and a slower tone, more elegiac, and I love that you've turned that around.
Thank you.
Really great, really great. And Sally, are you going to share your one?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So the question. So I was speaking to my primary school in this poem and asking it if it misses me. So my primary school says it doesn't miss me as much as I miss it, which is fair enough because I miss every bit. The playground says I taught you how to imagine and I taught you how to play. I would start to hate you if you had stayed. The playground says I taught you how to care, but please don't come back. You're too big for these little chairs. There's no going back, only growing up. But sometimes getting older really does suck.
Oh, that's so well observed. Yeah, it makes total sense. I think I still miss my primary school. I think things started getting complicated after that, So I'm really interested in this bit, but I would start to hate you if you had stayed. I mean, that's a really strong thing for a playground to say, and I love the surprise of it. What were you thinking and feeling there?
I think just putting myself in the shoes of a primary school, having seeing thousands of kids, I feel like you would sort of lose a bit of empathy for them. seeing so many of them, and kind of just wanting to do your job, like teaching kids stuff and then moving them on. And maybe from the perspective of a primary school, like kids wanting to stay there, it's like, why would you want that? Like you've got a whole life, like this is just such a tiny bit of it.
The little chairs are such a great image for that, aren't they? You're just physically not going to fit into them.
Yeah, because I went back to my primary school recently, actually, and you realize how small everything actually is.
Yeah. How long ago did you leave? It's quite a while, I imagine.
I'm in S5 now, so
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Okay, so that's a real shock to the system, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've also put a really interesting thought in my mind, which is what playgrounds feel like in the holidays when no one's there. That's a very different atmosphere, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I love it, Sally. It's a great idea. It's really original.
Thank you.
And I think Heather's going to share her poem as well, and then I think we'll leave a little bit of space for the business talk. Has to happen at the end. Oh, Atlas, yeah, we can definitely make time for that too.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. This is about a river, and the question, what do I not know? Terribly much. Almost too much to bear. It boggles me, your sheer pluck, that hideous boldness of man, to turn to me, ancient and wise, and ask in your puerile and demanding manner, tell me your secrets. My secrets. Oh, the secrets I could tell, the confidences I hide under my bed, amongst my pebbled treasures, my silt and my reeds, the bones within my banks, the monsters. You dare to question what I keep from you? You, who has never weathered the flow of time, who does not hear the rush of history in your ears. You, child, sweet and naive, you are audacious, and I am in acrimony.
I hope you're really pleased with that, Heather. It's a great poem. How are you feeling about it?
Pretty good for a first draft.
Yeah, I would say that's great. So, I love the tone of voice that river has. It's so learned and arch, and it's putting the questioner right in their place, isn't it? It's wonderful images as well, like the idea of the double meaning of under my bed, under my riverbed, but under my bed. Very cool. And let me see what I've written down here. The rush of history in your ears. Oh, I love that. It's like the sound of lying on the riverbed and listening to the river in a way. And you're painting in the bones and the monsters. I felt like I could see all of that. And it's a completely surprising way to write about the river because it feels like it's from inside, Is there anything you'd change?
Oh, not that I can really think of right now, but I'll probably think of something later.
Sometimes they just write themselves perfect in one go, though. It might be one of those. It sounds brilliant.
Thank you.
And Atlas, can we hear yours as well?
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm happy to read mine out. Okay. The hollow way is bone broken as it marches through the pines and through the pathless trail, right and left and past the fallen ash. And I take it, and I come to the ring of pines that stretch achingly high, bending down to look at the patch of ground marked only by leaf and holly, where the earth buried him. I stand there, and I ask, where is he? Where did he go? And they rustle themselves and dust themselves, and I do my best to hear. They say, the fox runs his brambles and gambles his jaunts, and rests his head on the moss-eaten tire. And in time the moss reaches his chin and the velvet tips of his ears and his eyes. And yet he runs, and yet he runs, over hedge and into the sky.
Well, that's just taken my breath away, Atlas. How amazing.
Thank you.
It feels like a poem that is a quest in a way, and a portal. It feels like we're just on the brink of another world there. Just such gorgeous imagery, and I love your repetitions of and. There's something really unusual about the voice there. Each of you in your poems has sounded so different from everyone else, and I think that's so exciting. You've obviously all got strong poetic identities already. I could hear that 1,000 times, and we don't have time, but it's wonderful to hear it. So thank you for sharing it, Atlas.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Really nice to write with you guys, and I'm going to hand over to the good StAnza folk just to do a little bit of housekeeping. But thank you all so much for sharing your ideas and your poems. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was absolutely amazing. And what an incredible bunch of poets we have here. They really
I
are
know.
something else. Again, I'm just so blown away by everything that you've done today in an hour and a half. It's just
I
astonishing.
know. It's a lot of poems, isn't it?
It really is just wonderful stuff. I feel terrible sort of moving on to rather more prosaic things, but it is all important as well. But anyway, thank you again so much. Thanks to all of you. Transported absolutely by your poems into all kinds of amazing places. So thanks so much for coming along. Very quickly, a reminder that next Wednesday's webinar is Spoken Word and Performance with writer, theatre maker, hip hop MC and beatboxer Testament. That's who we've got next week, next Wednesday. In fact, that's it's the 30th. Oh, that's an important date. So St Andrews. Right, we've got as well. So we're going to talk a tiny bit, just a very little bit about what happens next, what the second part of this is, and particularly because Jen is involved in it all, and that's chance to submit your poems, anything that you've written in response to or inspired by these webinars, or it might be something completely different. And the closing date for that will be Friday, the 23rd of December. And all the information about that, all the guidelines, all the terms and conditions, and the digital entry form is now on the SIM page of the StAnza website. So I won't go through it all now, because you can log on and see that information there. But have the closing date in mind. All the guidelines are there. You don't have to have attended all or indeed any of the live webinars, but we hope we will have looked at some of the recorded ones, and we know that you who are listening to it at this very moment have attended them and have made the most of them as well. That's really it, I think, as far as that side of it is concerned. And once we have the poems in, there'll be a selection made, and the 6 who are selected will go on to have further online group and one-to-one mentoring with Jen. And there'll also be the opportunity to be invited along to the StAnza Poetry Festival in St Andrews in March, and to read your work there. Is there anything you wanted to say about this amazing opportunity, Jen, that 6 lucky people, well, 6 talented and lucky people will have?
I just think it's such a wonderful experience, isn't it? I mean, you've all done such great work up to this point too, but to be able to keep going and develop your craft that bit further is really exciting. And I remember from last year, it was super exciting when we all got together at StAnza, because we've been working together for quite a long time by then, and we met on a stage. It was a great event, and also just a really nice coming together of like-minded poets. So please put in your work. 23rd is just before Christmas, so you can get it in, out of the way, and then relax, and we'll do the rest. But good luck, and please mind and get those poems in.